Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is John Zindel. This is Dom Scarcella with me, and we are giving a live recap of WWE Smackdown. Dom, go ahead and introduce yourself to the people.
Hello, everyone. This is the third week we've been doing this. So this is the third week I've been back to WWE. This is also the first SmackDown after the pay-per-view, which happened Saturday, so 6 days ago. There's uh there's a lot going on in this show, some interesting angles. So let's get right to it and don't bury the lead. What's our big story here, John?
That is right, Dom. Do not bury the lead. Don't you dare bury the lead. Um, it is going to be tough to decide. But my gut instinct at the moment is the promo by Bray Wyatt
Okay.
that we just had here. I think was a bit more impactful than the main event, which was the four-way, which was okay. But
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and jump right into the promo with Bray Wyatt. I've been seeing this a lot more recently in the AEW world,
Okay.
where they kind of have promos that feel like a person just talking rather than a 10-minute, monologue that they memorize and they go from line to line. He was just seemed like a guy kind of out there being himself rather than the character he always portrays, and that was pretty believable. So for me, I like the promo by him. It is a very bizarre thing. He's constantly done for the last like 2 or 3 years now. It's getting like weirder and weirder and crazier and crazier. I kind of wanted them to just stick with him being Bray Wyatt, and this is me. I'm here. I'm kind of stripping myself of this character and see where that went. But then they, at the very end, kind of shifted it to this very like, oh no, I am crazy and I am this character. So, what did you think of the promo, Dom?
I was a little bit lost in it. I almost like you're describing. I'm watching this promo and I'm thinking, okay, how much of this is shoot and how much of this is work? Like you're saying, the trend for, I think in the WWE, it was the CM Punk what that bombshell that he had that one night on Raw, I think it was the pipe
Mm-hmm.
bomb. There you go. And ever since then, maybe they've been trying to recreate that formula. The problem is it's not really a formula. That was CM Punk who really had something to say, and they gave him the airtime, or he's just a really good actor. Um, Tonight, it looks like to me that Bray Wyatt has some sort of connection with the WWE audience, or at least he did with the live audience tonight in the arena. Um, they seem to be going along with what he was doing. I mean, I don't know if it was plants in the audience, but everybody was doing, they were holding up the cell phones with the flashlights on as he made his entrance. I'm just holding his lantern. It's something that to me, as someone getting back into WWE, it clearly does not mean as much to me as it means to longtime fans. So I'm gonna defer to what seemed, unless it was the infamous WWE piping in canned cheering and stuff. I'm gonna defer to the crowd seemed to be into what he was doing, and that this is big news that he's back. I don't know the backstory in real life as to why Bray left the WWE. I don't know the backstory as to how he got back into it, but apparently it's a big enough deal that they gave him the closing segment without a match, without anybody else in the ring with him, just to talk to the fans, not only in the live arena who are participating in some way, but just to face the camera and talk to the TV audience. What do you know about Bray Wyatt? And can you shed some light for me and for anybody else in our audience who might be in my position here? What does Bray Wyatt mean to the WWE universe, and what does it mean that he's now back in the WWE ring?
Yeah, great question. And I would go ahead and sort of, I think, when we started doing this, I have stopped watching WWE in general for several years now. So I haven't really been following along too much. I know there's been a lot of like people getting laid off, and they're kind of like, bringing in new guys from NXT, and kind of getting rid of some of the people due to whatever reason. But um, I couldn't really answer that too definitively for you. I will have to say that he's always had an interesting character, and he's never really done any shoot interviews, which is cool. Like, if he's gonna be this creepy character, it's you kind of got to live the gimmick. You can't really be like on some podcast and then you're just like a regular guy, and then you go back to, oh, like I'm this creepy whatever
Okay,
guy.
because that's something that a lot of wrestlers do when their in-ring days are over. They break kayfabe. They go on these shoot interview things, and they talk about the career as not the character. But let's narrow down the question further. You specifically, as a wrestling fan, what do you remember of Bray Wyatt? Do you remember him in big matches? Do you have favorite Bray Wyatt moments from when you used to watch the WWE? How far back do you remember him? Take us through. What's your recollection of Bray Wyatt in a WWE ring?
Yeah, so one of the things with Bray Wyatt, he basically came in and they made him Husky Harris, and he was just like some goofy redneck, I guess. Like, I don't
Okay.
know. So then they rekindled this gimmick they had for the 90s, and I can't recall the guy's name, but there was a dude basically who was like, a swamp person. So he was doing like this, like somebody that would be in the swamps of New Orleans, and that's kind of why he's over there. But like, he
Okay.
has like the straw hat and white pants and like kind of a flowery button up, but like open, and kind of like somebody that is a swamp like person. Um, yeah, so that was his original gimmick, and then they made it like darker and darker, and they've always twisted the character around, and they've done a pretty good job with it. But um, some of the stuff was falling flat. I know before he got axed, like some of the stuff was just like it's too. It was too much. Like at some point, you just want to see the guys wrestle, right? I don't need to have
Sure.
so much of the character. But that's why I was kind of looking forward to him kind of come out, and he shot a promo, a babyface promo from the heart. That's the best way to do it. Like from the heart, like, hey, thank you guys so much. Like, I've had a rough year. I'm here. It sounded sincere. So I really liked that aspect of it. I would love if they just sort of dropped his creepy gimmick. I don't
Okay.
know. It's not it That's not my cup of tea. Like I never and this is gonna be, I don't know. I just don't really particularly care for the supernatural
So if
stuff.
they could get away from the evil version of Duck Dynasty, and
Yes.
just go more with Bray Wyatt. He's a beloved worker. Um, but you were saying some things that some of the gimmicks were maybe falling flat in your eyes, and eventually he was axed and parted ways on maybe not such good terms. Is this an overkill push to return to the WWE as a guy who just dominates a pay-per-view just by showing up as a mystery person, and now you're getting top billing? I don't know what Raw was like, but he gets top billing at SmackDown, the final segment. Is this? I mean, it's not like WWE is a struggling program at this point. I don't think they've got superstars, they've got belts, they've got the good storylines. I mean, is Bray Wyatt as the new lead? Is this kind of weirdly burying real angles that they have? Too much, not enough, just right. What do you
Um,
say?
so from I'd say it's good to bring him back. It's good because he's a half decent worker, and he's recognizable. He's a pretty good worker, I'd say, and he's pretty recognizable.
Okay.
Um, Good to bring him back, but I think they had some pretty good stuff going before the last two Smackdowns. But we just want to see the dudes wrestle and give me like a little storyline, sure, but like let's watch a main event and watch the guys wrestle, and that's sort of what I think you and I would probably prefer. But you know,
I
one of
don't
those
mind a
things.
good promo and a good angle if it's going somewhere. I don't mind something if it has elements of, okay, I can see this being a story and I can see this getting to something in a ring. Like I'm gonna give this one a too much um rating just because there was no climax to what happened in the ring tonight. I don't think it was weird. There was no talk of an opponent. There was no talk of how this gets into the ring. There
There
was
is
no
some
talk
pretty
of teammates, really. It was just a guy, and it almost looked like they cut him off at the end of the show. I mean, if he's really doing a heart to heart with the crowd, a beloved performer returns. I don't want to belabor the point because it wasn't an actual match, but I obviously for the push they're giving him, I'm going to trust the writers and say, if you're pushing him, then I will go along for the ride with you and see where this goes. But I this this looked like it was, at least for the first week, it looked like it was forced.
yeah.
But what do I know? I'm not their core audience, and I've been watching their product for 3 weeks.
We have been watching for 3 weeks, so we are kind of walking sometimes a little in the middle of a movie, and we're trying to like piece it together here. So,
That's a good
um,
one. Like we show up with our popcorn, like what's going on? I miss.
wait, who is this guy? Like we're still doing that. We're still figuring it out. But yeah, from my perspective, it's all right. You know, like somebody out there likes it. Somebody's gonna go crazy for it. People that are fans of them, and then there are gonna be people like me that are like, I just kind of want to see the dudes wrestle and not the supernatural stuff. But
Okay.
let's move on to the. I mean, there's two leads here. Let's go on to the
There's an
main event.
in-ring lead, and there's the thing that the WWE wanted to be the lead, and
Yes,
there's the thing that in-ring looked like it was not only the lead of the show, but I saw what could be some storylines developing from it, and that was the Fatal Four Way. I think if this is where you were going, I'm going to say Fatal Four Way for the number one contender slot for the Intercontinental title was interesting to me. Is that where you were going?
yeah. So from my perspective, Dom, I'll tell you what, man. I liked. So we had the main event. They set it up nice. They told us at the beginning of the show, "Hey, these dudes are going to be in the main event," and the dudes are Sheamus, Rey Mysterio, Ricochet, and not one of the Uso brothers, but the
Solo
new,
Sikoa.
yeah, Salusa Kota.
Solo Sikoa, the street fighter of the group, although they're all capable of brawling. But this was not the original billing here.
No, your boy got there was some there was some ridiculous thing in the beginning with a car accident, and your
There
boy
were kind of two
carried.
ridiculous things here that kind of worked out. Like let's set up what happened here first. And it was supposed to be Karrion Cross. I'm finally getting his name right. I've tried to call him Cade Cole and Cole Cross and Cade Cross and Killer Cross, which is what his name was in other promotions. I mean, in July he was Killer Cross in Ric Flair's final match pay-per-view.
Right,
Um, but this is 3 weeks now. I've seen him in vignettes. I've seen him doing sneak attacks. And tonight I saw him in apparently a car accident and then getting jumped by Drew McIntyre. I still haven't seen the guy in a wrestling match. But Karrion Cross is apparently a big deal, and he was supposed to be in this fatal four-way match. Um, they teased that maybe he would not be able to go, and apparently they're furthering. So the Drew McIntyre Karrion Cross match at the pay-per-view was not the blow off of their feud. From what I'm gathering, this is continuing. There's another chapter at least in it. And then, of course, something happened. I want to say I read that it was something on Raw that happened with Rey Mysterio and his son Dominic, where now Rey Mysterio he's questioning whether he can continue as a wrestler because he doesn't want to stand in the way of his son, But on the other hand, he doesn't want, his family's dirty laundry to be aired on TV as part of a wrestling angle. And that's the work. That's not a shoot. I have no idea if the Mysterios like each other or not in real life, whatever. Um, but Ray comes out to Triple H and says, I got to talk to you. I don't think I can do this. He mentions his son. He says, I think I got to quit. And Triple H says, come on to the office and we'll talk about this. And it was a good surprise because we didn't hear anything about it the rest of the show until they announced the first three entrants in the Fatal 4-Way. And then we're expecting, is it Karrion Kross? Is he coming out bandaged up? Can he go? What's going to happen? And they announced Rey Mysterio's the fourth competitor in this Fatal 4-Way. Okay, good job. Within the self-contained TV show, that's excellent work.
Yeah.
That's setup. A good job of writing stuff into your TV show where the swerves make sense within your show. Mm-hmm. And now you resolve it at least a little bit at the end of your show. You don't leave everything for next week. That's good TV there.
Another
that's good writing. I like that he got into the match. And let's talk about the match. I mean, what happens in this match, and what did you like about it? What's the big spot from this match for you?
Yeah, so I thought the match was okay. It was pretty good. Fatal 4-Ways, and we were talking about it during the match. They're a mess.
They're tough.
Tough because
Fatal 4-Ways are tough.
You have to you can only really have two guys going at once. So they'd have some sort of action where two guys get thrown out and then two are in the ring. And two guys are laying around, waiting around to kind of, you've got your two guys in the ring and then you have two guys laying around and then they ring around the rosy a little bit, in and out. I wish they kind of, like, when they do the Fatal 4-Way matches, would do a little bit more, like, triple team moves or quadruple team moves, because you might as well get your money's worth while you can and do some of this stuff where you wouldn't normally see these moves. Like, they did a pretty good job with it, but they do this a lot where
they tried one. Are you going where I think you're going?
What's that? The double team superplex?
Yeah, they tried some of this. So you're talking about you wish that you'd see more double teams or triple teams. They tried.
Yes.
What did you think? I mean,
so that was probably the coolest spot, was with all four guys doing they're going to do the superplex, and then the other guy.
Sheamus was on the top turnbuckle. It looked Ricochet was trying to superplex him off the second rope. Rey Mysterio jumped up. It looked like a possible double superplex with Rey and Ricochet. Solo Sikoa jumps back in, gets underneath Rey and Ricochet, and now you're wondering, okay, is he going to do a double power bomb, or is somehow they going to hold on to Sheamus, and this is going to be like a four-man cluster, whatever, hitting the ring. He winds up power bombing Rey and Ricochet, goes for the cover. Sheamus, who stayed on the top turnbuckle, comes off almost too late to break up the pinfall that Solo Sikoa had. And then from there, things got weird. In a sense, it was almost like you were waiting for it, because all these guys, except for Rey, is in a faction.
Yeah.
This is the thing that WWE does, and this is WWE Smackdown. We got factions everywhere. Sheamus is in a faction. Solo Sikoa is in a faction. Ricochet might be in a faction. He might be in a tag team sometime. I don't know. Maybe he is. Maybe he isn't. Rey is fighting with the faction. So the question was, okay, who's going to interfere in this match? And so we got some interference that maybe springs us forward, but it was Bloodline coming down, and then it was the rest of Sheamus's crew, and it almost looked like the Donnybrook from the pay-per-view. But it was a good excuse to have guys, and we're just talking about this. These Fatal 4-Ways are tough to book because unless everybody's sprawled out dead, except for one or two guys, you've got to find some way to have enough guys distracted so that two guys can have a finish. And this
Yes.
breakdown with the factions was not only interesting to see, maybe this becomes a Sheamus's faction versus the Bloodline crew going forward, but it allowed two guys to remain in the ring. It was Ricochet and Ray, and they seem to work well together. They're similar enough stylistically. And what did you think of how this finish worked?
I liked so I should say this. The best part of the match was the winner. I'm a bit of a mark for
Let's not bury the lead here. Rey Mysterio wins.
yes.
Rey Mysterio wins this match. I almost buried the lead. I was talking over it. We don't bury the lead here. Rey
We won't.
Mysterio wins the match. So
We don't
continue. Continue. You
bury
like that win.
the lead. Yeah. He can still go, which is crazy. I
Ken.
haven't seen him wrestle in years. And I was like, oh, here's gonna come like sometimes you have an old man come out and you're like, dude, he is too old. Like this is not this is not good. But he could still go. He was still, he had a pretty awesome finish with the Hurricane Rana spike pile driver. And
Yes, I haven't seen that before.
no,
And that's what we've decided it was, because for a while there we were wondering what was going on.
yeah,
It
Hurricane
was
Rana
reversals and no cells and just guys flipping around and tons of action. And it looked like nothing was happening from an impact standpoint. And suddenly Ricochet gets spiked on his head and is not moving.
right.
Or, he bounces off and he gets spiked. He bounces off. He winds up on the ropes. This is the setup for the 619. And then the splash, if I'm remembering correctly. So now I remember Ray from way back. You also remember Ray. He wears the mask, which lets him hide some of the years from his face.
That might be, yeah, right.
So that the gimmick lets him hide the fact that he's old. Now, body wise, he looks like he's still in shape. Musculature looks maybe a little heavier than he used to be, but not, like he's out of shape.
That
So
happened to a lot of us, Tom.
it
That
happens
happened
to anybody. It like everybody that it happens in sports, and because wrestlers seem to have longer careers than other athletes, except for maybe golfers.
yeah.
Um, you learn over the years to kind of grow old with some of the wrestlers, and as
Mhm.
long as they still give you a good effort in the ring, you accept it. The suspension of disbelief works. And maybe the guys who were super athletic early on, as they mature in the ring, they get better at psychology. They get better at setting up moves rather than trying to wow you with just speed all the time.
Right.
I mean, Ray went for some pretty good combos, but he had some pretty interesting spots. I mean, was this enough vintage Rey Mysterio for you in this match?
Yeah. Um,
What did
well,
you like?
I do want to mention this before. I do want to mention the spot they had where everybody does the dive now. It's just like
Yes,
the thing.
yes,
And we
yes.
saw Rey Mysterio do a baseball slide, but head first slide instead of like, foot first. And he did a face first and then right, just kind of his body went right onto, I think it was Solo or somebody. I
Yeah,
forget
brawl
who
on
it
the outside. Solo Sikoa is flat on his back on the padding outside the ring,
was.
but he's kind of parallel to the ring apron there. And like you're saying, Rey Mysterio goes head first slide under the bottom rope and just yet slides out, and it becomes a perfect splash onto the opponent on the floor there. I
It
haven't
didn't.
seen that before, and that's a good variation on the dive to the outside, because sometimes there's too much diving, and the dive to the
Sometimes
outside
there's too
is
much
almost
diving.
I'm going to
There
use
is
the F
all.
word. I'm going to use the F word. It's
Uh,
it's sometimes the fakest thing that they do.
yeah. Oh,
We saw
Tom.
that in this match.
This
Who
is
was it that went to the dive on the outside and wound up hitting two of the guys, and they went down okay? But like Solo Sikoa's off to the side, standing up, he didn't get touched at all, and he just went down.
we're
I
gonna get
guess the
Tom. We're gonna get flagged on YouTube for you cursing and saying the F word.
I
because that is a dirty word, my friend. But you're right. It's kind of
I
fake.
appreciate the athleticism, but come on. He didn't hit the guy, and the guy just fell down and then started looking around like, was I supposed to fall down?
Yes.
But
Right.
like that was early in the match, so it was you could recover from that. I think there was enough action in the match, and with the different styles of the guys, like Sheamus got to brawl and do his big high impact maneuvers. Solo Sikoa got to be that quick striking street fighter. Ricochet got to be the athletic guy who's inventing moves. Um, Sort of like maybe a version of Rey Mysterio from a few years ago. And Rey got to be enough of his former self where it was kind of a feel good moment when he won, I think.
Yeah. And you know what? As we're talking a little bit more, and we are doing it live, so just
I'm
kind of like
working through the matches I'm remembering. Like I haven't this is immediate post-match review here. So I'm
and
talking my way. I'm like deciding what I think of the match as we're going.
what
And not a great match, some eye roll spots, but for the four guys who were in it, they all got their chance in this SmackDown match to work their style and to look strong enough here and there. They may have rolled forward to another angle that can jump off of this. And I'm going to say overall a thumbs up. It was enough of a feel good spot there at the end. And Ray looked enough like Ray where uh, I'm going to say it's credible. Ray wins.
and you know what? I think as we're talking through this, we had two leads, right? We have Bray Wyatt promo, and we
Ray
had
was
the
the
main event.
lead they
And
wanted us to have,
the
and
stuff
we're
that
kind of
we
talking ourselves into the match.
the stuff we are talking right now, the more we're talking about it, I'm like, yeah, I like the match a lot better than the promo. And it might be just like, hey, we like just the wrestling, and we like a little bit of the promos. They could be good, but like, dude, I just want to see the main event. And there was a stipulation. We had some actual number one contender for the Intercontinental.
It mattered.
It
This
actually,
mattered for a belt.
yeah, bang. So that could have been the main, and we could have been good, and maybe they could have opened with the Bray Wyatt thing, or you know, that was fine. But for me, I like the flow of having the main event as a match. But we are old, cracky. We're old guys. We're kind of like, yeah, just give me the wrestling. I don't need all the nonsense. But anyways, so
But in WWE's defense, if you were a longtime fan and there was a bad taste in your mouth when Bray Wyatt left, um,
that might be
maybe this
part of
is
it.
what you want to see. I remember Sting showing up in TNA as an old WCW fan. And, sometimes he kind of close a show. I think once it's his first time back. They just gave him the microphone and people loved it.
Right. They were kind of eating it up, the
If
promo.
you were a new fan to TNA, you'd be going, what is this?
Right. Right.
But there were enough old NWA, WCW, just wrestling in general fans that they knew who Sting was and they ate it up. There were chants from the crowd, you still got it, you still got it. So I'm kind of where you are on this. What was more interesting to me was the match, but I will defer to the fact that the WWE has longtime fans that they've cultivated for a long time, and maybe Bray Wyatt really is the bigger deal that they tried to make it.
Yep.
But
Hey,
there's
Dom.
other stuff going on here. So we've got Bray, we've got an Intercontinental number one contender. Going back through the rest of the show, and the other thing about how the show ended is we almost forget that the first hour had a lot of action. What stands out to you from that first hour? We had besides some of those outside of the ring things, I think we had four matches that at least started in the first hour, if not finished. I mean, the fourth match didn't finish in the first hour, but a lot of action in that first hour. What do you want to talk about? What stands out to you?
Yeah. So I do want to say we're about 30 minutes in.
Yeah,
So
we'll go quick. We're first hour. What do you like? It's almost like lightning round.
yeah. So let's we don't have to go home yet, but we got the keys in the car.
We got
And we're warming
We're
up the
doing the
call.
Italian goodbye, where it takes you like half an hour because you got to say goodbye to everybody, and
The
it's as
Italian
opposed to
goodbye,
the
which is
Irish goodbye, where you've snuck out and you're gone before anybody notices.
the Italian goodbye is when you hang on excessively long. The
Yes,
Irish goodbye would be I just end the stream randomly.
yes.
So we'll do the Italian goodbye here, but the first couple, I said the first hour, I liked. I should say like I really liked the opener, and we both did because we got our boy Sami Zayn, and we had Kofi Kingston.
Great
So
finish.
good, yeah, great finish. Those two, Kofi's quite the pro in there, and they have a good storyline going on with the Usos and goofball Sami Zayn. I think we're both really into this storyline.
Into that and into the bloodline, the Usos and the New Day. A New Day, the Usos are coming up on possibly passing the bloodline for longest WWE Tag Team Champion title reign. They're
Mm.
within 30 days of it. And I don't know what's going to happen at the next pay-per-view if it's early November, but there's heat between the factions, there's heat within the bloodline, and works, does not work in the middle. What do you think?
Oh, definitely.
I think it worked too. I think
It's probably
the dynamic between the teams worked, and I love the Sammy and Jay trying to get along,
yeah.
trying to help each other, even though they kind of don't like each other. And a great finish. If anyone missed it, Kofi's got Sami Zayn in a roll up, but they're very close to the ring ropes. So Jey Uso kind of kicks them over. The ref doesn't see it. And now Sami Zayn has the advantage. Kofi's shoulders are on the mat, and Sami gets the pinfall with help from Jey Uso.
One of the cool things
For
about
1 week, they got along. I like it. I like it. Was there anything else from that match that stood out to you?
the one thing I liked was, and this is something that I think I would steal if I saw this, but if I was still doing it. But Kofi Kingston went to go do the dive, but backed off of it and didn't do it as Jay kind of got out of the way. So
His target kind of figured it out, backed away, and
then he stopped. And you're like, oh yeah, instead of him doing the dive and catching him, he just stops like, no, the dive's not going to work. And he kind of
catches himself on the top rope and then kind of gives that smirk in the ring like he saw it.
Yeah, and so that was a good trend. I mean, I thought that was like a pretty good use. If we're going to be doing dives all the time, do make them a little bit more unique. And I thought that was kind of like cool that he just like stopped short and he did like a little dance in the ring, and the crowd got a little pop from the crowd. So I like that spot.
He did the dive later, and it worked, right?
And then he goes back, does the dive later, and
that makes it better.
Yes.
Like the fact that they're not diving on, the fact that he tried to dive and caught himself and said, ain't going to work, made the dive that hit later even better.
Yes. So that was a good spot. Anything else for you in the first hour that sticks out?
It looks like they're setting up, and maybe this is cross TV shows because I haven't seen Omos yet, the Nigerian giant. But they're trying to set up something between him and Braun Strowman. Braun Strowman had a handicap squash match. James Maverick and Brian Thomas, bless their hearts. They were smaller than him, bigger than me, but smaller than Braun Strowman. They sold for him. They took their bumps. They got beat, but it looks like that was just to set up giant versus giant and maybe get some guys moving between the two shows, Raw and SmackDown. Omos, he looks very imposing next to MVP, who's a legit wrestler. He's not a small guy. That's interesting. There wasn't a lot to talk about in that match, but what do you think about trying to get Braun Strowman and Omos, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, together to get maybe an angle going there in a feud?
You have two giant dudes, you at least have like, okay, these two monsters are going to go. I can remember Omos being pretty lousy, but
Kind of
maybe he's
green
got
still?
just
Is he
pretty
new? Is he kind of green still?
very green.
Okay.
But you know, maybe it works. Maybe Braun can bring him along.
Okay.
Um,
You can be big and green. You cannot be small and green.
yeah. Um, but that'll be okay. I think the big thing, and I'll even set you up here because this is your boy from the first hour.
Okay.
L.A. Knight made his debut.
Okay.
And you actually know who he is.
I know who he is. Wade Barrett also knows who he is because they were Wade Barrett was an NWA announcer when LA Knight was Eli Drake in NWA.
Because he was gushing over him.
And
Yeah.
apparently they also know each other. Apparently, this wrestler was in NXT for a while and was great there. And so obviously Wade Barrett knows him from there.
Mm.
Better match than I thought. I've been calling these guys the Zoolanders because all we saw were backstage vignettes of male models. Apparently, they're the maximum male models. The guy we saw in the ring today was Mansois, and although it's been sort of a comedy segment backstage, it was decent in the ring. I mean, this was not a squash match. Mansois got some offense in. LA Knight obviously won. He won with something called the blunt force trauma, the BFT, which it's a snapmare takeover, but instead of flipping the guy over onto his back, he turns it into a spike. So it's almost a snapmare into a sit down DDT.
Yeah.
Okay, some creativity there. I'll go with it. And that goes into the pinfall for LA Knight. He gives a promo where he doesn't do the LA Knight with the crowd, but he did do the yeah. And that's a good test because he's trying to test if enough people in the crowd will go yeah back at him. So before he tries to get them to do LA Knight, he's kind of throwing out the feeler. Will they play along when he does the yeah?
I like the yeah.
Right? And if enough people in the crowd like the yeah, you're going to see more of it.
I like the yeah. I also liked where he said WWE superstars.
Yeah, right.
And because they're not wrestlers, they're superstars, and he does that.
Uh-huh.
I like that. And he just
that's interesting. I didn't think of it that way. I thought if he was doing that because he was almost trying to go heel because he was the baby face in this match, and maybe he was trying to go heel.
Yeah. Oh, he definitely was.
But go with your angle. Like that's a WWE thing, isn't it? Explain that more for me and for the fans. I know a little of this, but yeah, go with that. Run with that, man.
So, one of the things is Vince has replaced a lot of the terminologies. They are not allowed to be wrestlers, right?
Okay.
They're sports entertainers or they're WWE superstars. They're not WWE wrestlers. So that was kind of a jab, a subtle jab at the superstar thing. He even does the quotes that says superstars, rather than calling them wrestlers. He's been in NWA, like you said, and has some following from that end. And obviously NWA is pretty old school. I would say like that was pretty good, and I'm glad that he just went right away. He's like, I'm a heel. I thought the promo was pretty good, and the match was good. Like the match was okay. Like I feel like the male model guy was just a little.
LA Knight was supposed to win this. Like clearly, this was set up. He was supposed to win. I'm unsure on the heel thing. Now that you've explained the superstars thing better, because he's trying to play to the crowd. Heels don't really play to the crowd like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Unless you're really old school NWO, and even then, like Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, after a while, they kind of figured out that wait a minute, if we're supposed to be heels, we shouldn't be doing that too much.
Yes.
So he's trying to get the crowd on his side and playing along with them. So yeah, I'm interested to see where it goes. He can go in the ring. He's polished. He moves like a wrestler. He has his intonation down like a wrestler who can talk. So, I mean, it's the WWE though. So does he get stuck in the mid card? I don't know. If he does, he'll be a great mid card wrestler.
Yeah, he's definitely a good pickup though. just seeing what he could do in the ring, and then bringing in different styles and outside talent is always such a good idea, because you got to figure these guys train with the same people, so they're all kind of working the same. They're all, they. So if you bring somebody in from the NWA, they'll probably know some stuff that's a little bit different, and then bring a unique flavor.
Guys get traded all the time. It's pro sports. Guys don't stay with one franchise their whole lives. And in wrestling, where your career might be 20, 30 years, if there's more than one promotion, you've probably been on more than one of them. It's almost like the old territory days where, if you were the champion, you went to all the other promotions, and, you went to all the territories and you got known places. Yeah. I mean, LA Knight's been in NWA. He's been on Impact. He's been in NXT. Now he's on the big show in WWE. He's on one of their big two. So he's on SmackDown. Enough people know him. Wade Barrett is at least pushing him as an announcer, and that's a good use of your color announcer there.
Yeah.
If you've forgotten that he was on NXT, Wade Barrett is there to remind you on color.
Yeah.
So they want to push him for something, whether he gets out of the mid card or not, and whatever. But I mean, there are plenty of guys who had long careers and were great performers in the mid card. So that's not really a knock on a guy just wondering where he goes.
All right, Dom. Well,
I got two more matches, right? Hit Row versus Legado del Fantasma. This was picking up the ambush from the previous week. Legado del Fantasma gets the win. Double team pinning combination onto Top Dollar. It was not a very long match, but apparently there's some heat here from NXT days. So I'm going to give the WWE credit there for sticking to their WWE canon. So if there's longtime fans who follow more than one of their shows and some of their developmental stuff, maybe this is great for you to see wrestlers who you remember from NXT each getting their shot on the big show and clashing again. So even though I don't personally follow that story, I appreciate what WWE did there. We'll see where that goes, but it's really cool when a company sticks to their own canon. I get that WWE tries to erase guys' history from other promotions.
Yeah.
But the fact that they don't bury the lead, and they don't bury their own, at least not for this match, they did not bury their own development cycle.
Right.
So NXT guys who were feuding in NXT make it to the big show, and they clash on the big show, and Wade Barrett and Michael Cole acknowledged it. I like that. Not much of a match, but I like what they did sticking to their canon.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, Dom, it's a good idea if they've had success in NXT, duplicate that in SmackDown, because they've already worked together. They already have some spots that have worked. So you're not jumping in and kind of experimenting and having stuff go too flat. To anything, I would say we're kind of coming on 43 minutes here. So
I want to go very quickly. I don't want to leave the ladies out of this. We saw an interesting backstage Sonya Deville ragging on Liv Morgan. And then we had just a backstage brawl that ends with Liv Morgan using some of the equipment in the back for a pretty good table spot. So that's not an in-ring match, but I like that remembering what the WWE used to be with a lot of the women just being eye candy. I like that the women who can wrestle, and I'm using wrestle in the broad sense of not just like mat wrestling, but who can do this stunt work. I like the fact that the women who can do the stunt work are allowed to show that. I like that backstage segment, and I like the 6-woman tag match that we saw: Damage Control versus Raquel Rodriguez, Shotzi, and Roxanne Perez. There's heat there between those factions. Bailey from Damage Control got the pin, which was good for her because she's a top contender on the woman's side, but she's put over people, at least her last 2 matches.
I do want to say one thing about Bailey. So they did a backstage segment, and she asked one of the girls, "Are you stupid?" I laughed out loud. She like nailed the line. Like asking someone, "Are you stupid?" Like that. I was like, "Oh, that's pretty
Heel
mean."
move, heel move, backhand slap.
Like that's mean and sarcastic, and like I don't know why. For some reason, she just like nailed the line. I was like, "Oh,
She
that's
delivered it well, yeah. And she's got the heel persona, and it's the aloof heel. She's got it, yeah.
yeah."
So
So
that match was hit or miss for the ring stuff, but I like what they did. There's apparently still a tag team feud brewing between Dakota Kai and Io Sky versus maybe Shotzi and Raquel Rodriguez. So that tension is still there. There was some, are you stupid between Bailey and Roxanne Perez, and Bailey got to pin her for good measure. It was good for Bailey. It was good for Roxanne Perez, who's coming up from NXT, to get some time on the big show and to not look bad. I mean, she didn't look weak. She lost, but she didn't look weak. So I think that in a match that could have been a throwaway, I think they accomplished a lot. They kept the
yeah,
feud front and center. They gave someone from NXT some airtime on the big show, and they gave a top contender heel a chance to act like a top contender heel and get a pinfall as a reward for doing jobs her last two times out. So I think good work there. Time to go home, man. What do you think overall of the show? It's a
um,
post pay-per-view show, but all considered, what do you say?
I like the main event, and we'll call it our main event with the match and Rey Mysterio winning. I like that, and then all the Uso stuff has been good. Actually, Uso stuff, the Solo and the Usos and Roman Reigns, Sami Zayn, the Bloodline storylines, really good. So they've done that that was great. The first hour had a lot of action, which was good. I don't think it's been like I don't think it was as good as the intercontinental title match between Sheamus and Gunter. That was like kind of a banger. This one was like a little bit more flat, but all in all, good direction. Bang. How about you?
I, I'm going to echo what you said there with good direction. First hour was gangbusters. Second hour was slow and almost anticlimactic, but because there was good direction, like not everything's going to be 5-star match in the ring or even just settled in the ring, but there was enough good direction in this show. This is a good post pay-per-view episode because it takes what happened in the pay-per-view that's worth carrying forward, it carries it forward, but it also plants the seeds for other stuff. So because of what this show was supposed to be, and it was good direction, I will say better than not episode here. I would give it an above average. It held my interest. It was something else for me to watch. This has been fun for 3 weeks. This was not a letdown show coming off of pay-per-view. So I'm going to say I'm excited to do this again next week.
Absolutely. Dom, a pleasure as always. Thanks for joining today, and
Yes,
thank you
sir.
to our viewers for listening to us ramble about WWE Smackdown. This is a recap. We will be running these shows weekly in our show, Don't Bury the Lead.
No, but
Thank
we
you
get
all.
we get to the top stuff as quickly as possible, and then we play a little catch up. Don't bury the lead, and don't miss us. We're coming back next Friday, right?
We'll be back next Friday. So thank you, Dom. Thank you, everybody
Thank
that's
you, John.
watching, and have a great evening.